let's find Dad.
You're gonna get that what you want tomorrow. 'Cause I'm gonna make up the difference between what you saved. Attention.
C'est pas terrible.
And I caught me a bunch of little Space Kidettes.
Hanna Barbera didn't just make cartoons. They built an empire that shaped the childhood of every generation from the 1960s all the way through the late 1990s. The Flintstones, Scooby-Doo, the Jetsons, Jonny Quest. These are names that changed television forever. But for every mega hit that became a household name, there were dozens of shows that never got the chance they deserved. Shows that were genuinely brilliant, packed with incredible animation, razor-sharp writing, and ideas so far ahead of their time that network executives simply didn't know what to do with them, so they pulled the plug. From a dark and cinematic space opera that was years ahead of Star Wars, to a detective show so stylish it made grown adults tune in to Saturday morning television, these are 15 unfairly canceled Hanna-Barbera cartoons that absolutely deserve a second chance. And the top 3 entries on this list were so far ahead of their time that if launched today, they would dominate streaming charts for months worldwide. Let's get into it. Number 15, These Are the Days, 1974.
I sure wish we could think of some way to cheer him up.
In 1974, The Waltons was the 8th most watched show in America, pulling a 25.5 Nielsen rating and stacking Emmy wins like firewood. Little House on the Prairie was right behind it at number 13. 2 massive primetime juggernauts about wholesome family life in hard times, both dominating their Thursday night slots on CBS and NBC. And Hanna-Barbera, the biggest name in animation, looked at those numbers and thought they could bring that same magic to Saturday morning television. The result was These Are the Days, a quiet, beautifully crafted animated drama about the Day family living in early 1900s small-town America. And Hanna-Barbera went far with it. To voice the cast, Hanna-Barbera did something they almost never did. They went outside their usual stable of voice actors and recruited genuine primetime television stars. June Lockhart voiced Martha. Frank Cady played the neighbor Homer. Mickey Dolenz. These were not your regular Saturday morning cartoon actors. These were names that carried real weight with adult audiences. And the idea was to create something that felt elevated, almost literary. And it worked. Critics praised the show's writing, its painterly animation that some compared to Currier and Ives prints, and its scripts that genuinely appealed to adults and children alike. Reviewers said it belonged in primetime, not sandwiched between slapstick comedies on a Saturday morning. Regardless, ABC buried it in its Sunshine Saturday morning lineup. At the end, only 16 episodes were produced. Then it was gone. Number 14, The Space Kidettes, 1966.
Watch me!
The space race wasn't just a geopolitical competition between 2 superpowers. It was a cultural phenomenon that had completely consumed the American imagination. NASA was spending over $5 billion a year. The Gemini program was putting astronauts into orbit every few months, and every child in America wanted to be the next person launched into the stars. Hanna-Barbera saw that hunger and created the Space Kidettes, a Saturday morning cartoon that was essentially the Little Rascals in outer space. On paper, this should be printing massive cash for decades. Instead, the show premiered on NBC and ran for just 20 episodes. Behind the microphones, Hanna-Barbera deployed their absolute top-tier voice talent. Dawes Butler, Don Messick, Janet Waldo. What set the show apart from nearly every other animated series of the decade was its animation quality. While most 1960s television cartoons relied heavily on the limited animation techniques that Hanna-Barbera had pioneered to cut costs, the Space Kidettes featured noticeably fuller, more fluid animation that was rare for the era. But NBC canceled it after a single season in February 1967. The episodes were then chopped down from their original 30-minute format into 10-minute segments and bundled with other General Mills-sponsored shows like Tennessee Tuxedo for syndication. And here is the real tragedy. During that process of editing and repackaging, the original master elements for the entire series were lost, gone forever. The only surviving broadcast-quality versions of the Space Kidettes are those butchered syndicated edits, stripped of nearly 2/3 of their content. Number 13, Shazzan, 1967.
Et voilà, jeune maître, le vice-roi de Raffure vous attend.
The man who designed Shazzan was the same artist who created Space Ghost. His name was Alex Toth, and in the world of animation design, he was nothing short of a legend. In fact, artists like Bruce Timm openly cited Toth as one of their greatest influences. When CBS programming executive Fred Silverman began building his ambitious Saturday morning cartoon block for the 1967 season, Toth was the designer he trusted most, and Shazzan was one of the jewels in that lineup. The voice cast featured Janet Waldo as Nancy, Jerry Dexter as Chuck, and Barney Phillips as the booming voice of Shazzan himself. But here's the thing. Toth himself later acknowledged the show's fundamental narrative flaw. As he put it, the genie had no weaknesses, so once you summoned him, the episode was essentially over. 18 episodes were produced, each containing two 11-minute segments, and the show aired from September 1967 to January 1968 before continuing in reruns until 1969. Despite its short life, Shazzan's visual design and mythological world-building were decades ahead of their time. It brought Middle Eastern fantasy to American children's television years before Aladdin ever existed, and it did so with a boldness and scale that no other animated series was attempting. Number 12. The Funky Phantom, 1971. After Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? Became the biggest cartoon on Saturday morning television in 1969. Seeing this, Hanna Barbera spent the entire next decade trying to recreate that magic. They churned out clone after clone: Speed Buggy, Goober and the Ghost Chasers, Clue Club, The Amazing Chan and the Chan Clan, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kids. It was an assembly line of mystery-solving teenagers with wacky sidekicks, and most of them blurred together into forgettable noise. But the Funky Phantom was quietly different. Yes, it had the familiar structure: 3 teenagers, a dog, a van. But the twist was genuine. And here's the thing. The Funky Phantom was the very first Hanna-Barbera production to outsource its animation overseas, partnering with Air Programs International in Sydney, Australia. In fact, the Australian animation gave the show a noticeably different visual texture, looser and more fluid in some ways, but also prone to occasional off-model moments that set it apart from the studio's domestic output. Despite all these, only 17 episodes were produced, and that was it. Number 11. Birdman and the Galaxy Trio, 1967. In 1967, Hanna-Barbera was commissioned to develop 6 animated series simultaneously. It was an unprecedented workload, driven by the exploding demand for Saturday morning content across all 3 major networks. CBS, NBC, and ABC were all competing for Hanna-Barbera's output, and the man tasked with designing the look of nearly all of these shows was Alex Toth. For NBC, Toth created Birdman and the Galaxy Trio. The Birdman half followed Ray Randall, a winged superhero who drew his powers from the sun. Behind the scenes, Keith Andes voiced Birdman, while Don Messick handled his eagle companion Avenger, and Ted Cassidy voiced several recurring villains. On the other end, the Galaxy Trio half featured 3 interstellar law enforcers: Vapor Man, Meteor Man, and Gravity Girl, patrolling the cosmos and battling alien threats. 20 episodes were produced, each containing 2 Birdman segments sandwiching 1 Galaxy Trio segment. The show premiered on September 9, 1967, and ran until January 1968. But in 1968, everything changed. The assassinations of Martin Luther King Jr. and Robert F. Kennedy sent shockwaves through American culture, and President Johnson formed the National Commission on the Causes and Prevention of Violence. Parental groups then turned their attention directly toward Saturday morning superhero cartoons. And just like that, Birdman was gone. Number 10. Jabberjaw, 1976. In the summer of 1975, Steven Spielberg's Jaws obliterated every box office record in Hollywood history, earning over $470 million worldwide and inventing the modern blockbuster. Suddenly, sharks were the most marketable creatures in American entertainment, and Hanna-Barbera, wanting to have their own share of the cake, immediately went to work. The result was Jabberjaw, a Saturday morning cartoon about a 15-foot-tall great white shark who could walk, talk, breathe air, and play the drums in an underwater rock band called the Neptunes. The voice cast was staggering. In fact, the vocal choice gave Frank Welker a physical comedy energy that set him apart from the typical animated sidekick. The show was set in the year 2076 in a fully realized underwater civilization, and each episode saw the Neptunes traveling to different submerged cities and battling megalomaniac villains trying to conquer the ocean floor. When the show premiered, 16 episodes aired on ABC from September to December 1976. In fact, despite a winning concept, a stellar voice cast, and a premise that tapped directly into the biggest pop culture phenomenon of the decade, Jabberjaw was dismissed as just another Scooby-Doo clone and quietly canceled after one season. Number 9. The Herculoids, 1967. According to Joe Barbera's own autobiography, CBS was so impressed with the early footage of the Herculoids that they took the budget earmarked for a second season of Space Ghost and redirected it entirely to fund this new show instead. That is how much the network believed in what Alex Toth had designed. And here's the thing. What Toth designed in Herculoids was unlike anything Saturday morning television had ever seen. Set on the primitive planet Amzot, the Herculoids followed Xandor, a warrior king, his wife Terra, and their son Dorno, as they defended their world against an endless procession of alien invaders, mad scientists, and robotic armies. No laser guns, no vehicles, just raw, primal alien power. That concept was radical in 1967. Behind the scenes, Hanna Barbera was simultaneously designing 6 different series with Toth as the unifying visual architect. The studio was spending significantly on talent during this period, deploying its most trusted voice ensemble across the lineup. When the Herculoids aired, 18 episodes were produced, each containing 2 11-minute segments, with reruns extending through 1969. But then the cultural tide turned. CBS pulled the Herculoids and replaced the action block with softer, comedy-driven programming. Number 8. Capital Critters, 1992. In 1989, The Simpsons changed television forever. Within 2 years, it was the highest-rated show on Fox, pulling in over 33 million viewers for its peak episodes, and every major network in America wanted their own animated primetime hit. CBS launched Fish Police. ABC backed Family Dog. And both of those shows crashed and burned so spectacularly that The Simpsons itself mocked them in a Halloween episode, showing their gravestones in a cartoon cemetery. But there was a third show that died in that same graveyard, and it was the one that actually deserved to live. The truth is, Capital Critters was unfairly canceled. And here's the thing. The scriptwriter, Bochco, was not just some random television writer. He was the man behind Hill Street Blues and L.A. Law, 2 of the most acclaimed dramas in television history. For Capital Critters, Bochco partnered with Hanna Barbera and 20th Century Fox Television to create something genuinely ambitious. An adult animated series about mice, rats, and cockroaches living inside the walls of the White House. On paper, this was supposed to be the next Scooby-Doo. In reality, it never came close at all. The show tackled drug addiction, racism, gun control, and class inequality through the lens of vermin living beneath the most powerful building in America. It was sharp. It was politically relevant. It was genuinely ahead of its time. When Capital Critters opened, ABC aired only 7 of the 13 produced episodes before canceling it due to low ratings. Number 7. Sealab 2020, 1972. In 1995, 2 production assistants at Cartoon Network stumbled across a dusty box of old master tapes labeled Sealab 2020. They watched the footage, and then, almost as a joke, they started writing new dialogue over the characters' lip movements. Those 2 assistants were Adam Reed and Matt Thompson, and their experiment with those forgotten tapes eventually became Sealab 2021. But here's the twist that nobody talks about. The original Sealab 2020 was not a joke. It was one of the most forward-thinking animated shows Hanna-Barbera ever produced. Alex Toth envisioned Sealab as a futuristic underwater research station perched on the Challenger seamount. But when the show premiered, it was explicitly created to make young viewers ecologically aware of ocean conservation at a time when the environmental movement was just beginning to enter mainstream consciousness. The real U.S. Navy had run its own Sealab underwater habitat programs throughout the 1960s, and Hanna-Barbera drew directly from that real-world inspiration. Milton Bradley even produced a tie-in board game in 1973 simulating underwater exploration missions. But NBC only aired 13 of the 16 produced episodes before pulling the plug. The show was too educational, too sincere, and too quiet for a Saturday morning audience raised on slapstick and superheroes. It never found its viewership, and it vanished into obscurity for nearly 3 decades until Reed and Thompson turned its corpse into a comedy. Number 6. Space Ghost, 1966. Here's an unbelievable fact. 6 of the 10 Saturday morning slots on CBS in 1966 were filled by Hanna Barbera superhero cartoons. 6 out of 10! That is how dominant the studio was during the golden age of Saturday morning television, and the jewel in the crown of that entire lineup was Space Ghost. Created and designed by Alex Toth, the show followed a mysterious masked hero who patrolled the cosmos with his teenage sidekicks Jan and Jace and their pet monkey Blip. Behind the scenes, actor Gary Owens was selected by Joseph Barbera to voice Space Ghost in an audition, with Barbera later describing the performance as perfect from the start. The supporting cast included Tim Matheson as Jace, Ginny Tyler as Jan, Don Messick as Blip and Zorak and Moltar, Paul Frees as Brago, and Ted Cassidy voicing the villain Metalis. But here's the irony. Space Ghost stood out as one of the first superhero cartoons to feature a humanoid hero, at a time when most animated superheroes were anthropomorphic animals like Mighty Mouse, Adam Ant, and Underdog. That distinction mattered enormously to a generation of children who had grown up watching Batman on primetime television. When Space Ghost aired, it was targeted by the parents' watchdog group Action for Children's Television, and the resulting pressure caused it to be taken off the air. After the cancellation, there was a complete drought of animated superheroes until Hanna-Barbera introduced the Super Friends in 1973. Number 5. Wait Till Your Father Gets Home, 1972. Between The Flintstones going off the air in 1966 and The Simpsons premiering in 1989, there was a 23-year stretch where primetime animated sitcoms were considered dead in America. Networks wouldn't touch them, advertisers didn't believe in them, and the conventional wisdom across the entire television industry was that animation was strictly for children on Saturday mornings and had no place in the primetime landscape. But right in the middle of that supposed dead zone, one show quietly proved everybody wrong. Wait Till Your Father Gets Home premiered in first-run syndication on September 12, 1972, and ran for 48 episodes across 3 seasons, airing on most NBC stations on Sunday nights. It was the first primetime animated sitcom to run for more than a single season since The Flintstones, and it would remain the only one to accomplish that feat until The Simpsons, 17 years later. The show originated as a one-time segment on the ABC anthology series Love, American Style, titled Love and the Old-Fashioned Father. The concept worked so well that they tried producing a live-action version starring Van Johnson. That version flopped, but the animated version thrived. Character designs came from Iwao Takamoto, while Marty Murphy contributed to the show's distinctive visual style. On paper, that combination of conservative network television craft and a Playboy aesthetic tells you exactly what kind of show this was trying to be. Yet despite strong ratings in syndication and 3 full seasons of content, Wait Till Your Father Gets Home simply stopped. No grand cancellation announcement, no public outcry, it just quietly disappeared in 1974, and primetime animation went dark for nearly 2 decades. Number 4. Jonny Quest, 1964. Each episode of the original Jonny Quest reportedly cost between $50,000 and $60,000 to produce. In 1964, that was an extraordinary sum for animation. But Jonny Quest was never meant to be a typical cartoon. It was Hanna-Barbera's first action-adventure series. The show aired in primetime on ABC on Friday nights, and it was built from the ground up to appeal to both adults and children. The show's score was composed by Hoyt Curtin, and his jazz-infused, brass-heavy soundtrack was so iconic that its music and sound effects were reused across at least half a dozen subsequent throughout the late 1960s. William Hanna himself later said that John launched an entire platoon of other Hanna-Barbera series in the action-adventure genre, but the production costs were simply unsustainable. So Hanna-Barbera themselves canceled it after a single season. Number 3. SWAT Kats, The Radical Squadron, 1993. At the time of its cancellation, SWAT Kats was cited as the #1 syndicated animated show in America. Not struggling in the ratings, not bleeding viewers, #1, but they canceled it anyway. Created by Christian and Yvonne Tremblay, SWAT Kats premiered as part of the Funtastic World of Hanna-Barbera syndication block. The story followed two disgraced enforcers, Chance T-Bone Furlong and Jake Razor Clausen, who were demoted to working in a military junkyard after accidentally destroying their command headquarters during a pursuit. The voice cast was stacked. Every single episode was directed by Robert Alvarez, with the bulk of the writing handled by Glenn Leopold and Lance Falk. The show ran for 2 seasons, producing 23 original episodes plus a clip show. Ted Turner, CEO of Turner Broadcasting, was reportedly displeased with the violence in the show. In fact, he went on record before Congress after the cancellation, declaring that his company had plenty of cartoons like the Flintstones, the Jetsons, and Scooby-Doo that didn't encourage kids to hurt each other, seemingly directing his comments at SWAT Kats without naming it. Number 2. Thundarr the Barbarian, 1980. The 3 main characters of Thundarr the Barbarian were designed by Alex Toth, the same artist behind Space Ghost and Birdman. Every villain, every creature, every mutant wizard, and nearly every environment in the show was designed by Jack Kirby. 2 of the most important visual artists in the entire history of American comics and animation worked on the same Saturday morning cartoon. Set in the year 3994, Thundarr followed a muscular barbarian warrior, his companion Princess Ariel, a powerful sorceress, and Ukla the Mock as they traveled the ruins of recognizable American landmarks. Behind the scenes, Robert Ridgely voiced Thundarr. Nellie Bellflower voiced Ariel. Henry Corden, who was also the voice of Fred Flintstone at the time, voiced Ukla and several villains. The writing staff included comic legends Roy Thomas and Mark Evanier, and Gerber served as story editor for the first season. ABC was reportedly on the fence about buying the series until Ruby Spears had Kirby produce several large presentation paintings that convinced the network to greenlight it. 21 episodes were produced across 2 seasons from October 1980 to October 1981. When ABC canceled the show, NBC picked up the reruns in 1983, but declined to order new episodes, reportedly because of concerns about the show's violent content. Number 1. The Pirates of Dark Water, 1991. This is the show that broke the mold, and then the mold broke it. The Pirates of Dark Water was created by David Kirshner, and it was the most ambitious animated series Hanna Barbera had ever attempted. Set on the alien ocean world of Myrrh, the show followed Ren, a young prince of a fallen kingdom, who discovers he must find the 13 treasures of rule to stop a terrifying ecological substance called dark water from consuming the entire planet. Behind the scenes, Hanna-Barbera recruited top animation houses including Phil Cartoons, Big Star Enterprises, and Kennedy Cartoons to produce the highest quality animation the studio had ever put on television. Hasbro produced a full line of action figures. Marvel Comics launched a tie-in comic series. The show's serialized storytelling was years ahead of what children's television was doing, but that ambition was exactly what killed it. The production costs were enormous. When Turner acquired Hanna-Barbera, the new executives pushed their own projects forward and shoved existing Hanna-Barbera productions aside. The show was unable to meet its air date deadlines. After just 21 episodes across 2 seasons, The Pirates of Dark Water was canceled, with only 8 of the 13 treasures collected. The story was never finished. No finale, no resolution, no closure. If you stayed with us till this end, drop a comment telling us which one of these shows you think deserves a comeback the most. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss what's coming next. Because trust me, we are just getting started.